Claire, I'd like to start with you, and I'm going to take you back a few years. You got involved, I read, in your local Vinnie's group at the tender age of 10. Yes. I would have thought most kids by that age would have been busy with sport or homework or watching TV. Not to say that I'm sure you might have been busy with those same things at that time. But how does a 10-year-old begin what has become really a quasi-career with this in St Paul society?
Well, as a family, we were quite involved in our parish. That was our community. And through that community, I was given the opportunity to be involved in a young youth conference. And I was quite fortunate that a member of our youth conference gave some of us the opportunity to go visiting with her on Saturday mornings, to visit older people in their homes or in nursing homes. And that just became something that I enjoyed, so I like taking part. Yeah, so that just became part of my normal life, visiting elder people with that youth member. It was something I enjoyed doing because talking to people was just what we did, that's how we were raised. And that was a way for me to be involved in my community. And I guess I just stayed involved with it. It's something that's not true. It was part of my life. It's always been, I guess, part of my life. So I think that's helped to integrate into all the other things I do when I work in my life. There and work and stuff later in life. So I was just fortunate that as part of that parish community, someone gave me the opportunity to get involved. There was no reason not to continue doing it.
Thank you. That stopping is not an option. Belinda, your career trajectory has been quite varied as you've worked in education, in healthcare, small business, social services, and not-for-profit sectors. What's been the common thread for you in these roles that has led you to your current role in social impact? Thank you. I have been a jack of all trades, as they say. I've worked in many different industries. At the heart of all the work that I have done has been faith, an innate desire to use the gifts that I believe I've been given and the power that I have been given to make a difference. And that sounds like platitude. The reality is I was 17 when I could pinpoint this change in me. I went to a nursing sisters weekend retreat, which I can tell you now I didn't want to go on. At that time, Saturday night, using my fake ID, was going to the Gala Bar and Cross with my little sister. But my parents said, I was definitely head girl and I was at the time, it was on very shaky ground for many reasons. And they said I need to take this very seriously and go along with the sisters. And I did. And surprise, it was incredible. And I sat there listening to Sister Gonzaga and Sister Elsa and students, and they spoke from their hearts about why they did what they did and why they'd given up lives of marriage and niceties and the things that I thought that I wanted for people, for girls particularly, so that girls could go on into the world and make a difference, and particularly make a difference in the areas of justice and charity and mercy. And my heart was shifted, and they say your eyes were open, and they were. And I went on from that time. And I dabbled in becoming a religious sister, didn't work for many reasons. Not hard to see why you know me. And, but I did devote my career and my voluntary roles. From that point, I went to work for Chris Riley in 1993. So I'm actually not that young and appreciate being invited up on here. But really got to see the breadth of ministry that our church and our people have been involved in many different spaces like that. Thank you. This panel is really young and young at heart. I'll take youngsters. Josh, was it a similar pathway for you? I've heard now the importance of role models and how they've played an important part in getting to this point. But growing up in country Victoria, were things like advocacy and working for systemic change part of your early career ambitions?
No. Not at all. I remember in, I think, year 12, I wrote an essay which got an A+, which was self-reported. So it took, but I did have an interest in learning about the world a bit more broadly, and I was lucky enough to meet members of the Somali community in floating commission flats. When I was 18, I went to the Salvation Army in youth work. I did a tape course in youth work and got my first job with the Salvos. And actually met some people who sought protection and started to listen to stories, etc., and realised, perhaps my worldview was a bit misplaced. That sort of kicked me off on perceived understanding of the world and why we're in it and what's going on, and perhaps why I started reflecting. I think when I was 18, going, I've never met a homeless person before in Benalla, North East Victoria. So I moved to Melbourne and working mostly at homelessness, but also at the school in matters. Started questioning, what was the difference between my life and things that happened around me, and perhaps what are the things that happened to others that led them to be in a very different situation. And that kind of kicked things off from the start. And I'm a bit of a late comer to the Catholic social services there. I think my first gig was with Vincent in 2013. So it was sort of, with the Salvo started in 2006.
Thank you. The Social Progress Index will be released, I believe, in Australia, and Australia will be retaining its rank as 12th in the World Society of societies able to meet the basic human needs of its citizens and enhancing the quality of their lives and creating conditions for them to reach their full potential. I feel inclined to ask at this Catholic Social Services Conference, how do you think we as a sector are faring in enabling people to reach their full potential? It's a big question, I know. But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
As a sector, as a society, we're not doing well. So many resources are thrown into the space across many different systems, sectors, individual organisations, including mine. And despite this, the people, those communities who I think experience the most enmeshed in entrenched disadvantage and marginalisation continue to get worse. So yes, we can turn the curve on some indicators at some points in time, like education is doing a little bit better, but have a look at the makeup of our Indigenous communities, 5 times overrepresented in our locations where people experience enmeshed disadvantage. Have a look at the children who are homeless. 25% of children of homeless people in Tasmania are children. We are not doing well. It's on our watch. How do we make it better, I think, is the key point. We all know that it's not happening. I think our sector exists for that, but we have to think differently about how we respond.
I think we are doing a pretty good job of doing our part, but we are swimming across some pretty strong ways in terms of our society. We have a lot of people who like to think that we're about helping people and keeping a fair go on that sort of thing, but realistically, our society and our government and our policy is really about demonising people who dare to require help or who've been left behind. Realistically, we don't have a society that's truly based on we in this room probably operate from the starting place that that's what you do, you help people, you look after your neighbour. But in our broader community, I don't think that is the starting point. It is actually to demonise and to assume that people are in this situation because there's something fundamentally wrong with them and they deserve it and they should have to justify why they require help and those sorts of things. So I think we're doing a lot, we're doing what we can, but it's really hard when that's the environment that you're working in.
I think we should, the situation we find ourselves in as a sector is we need to be thinking about the broader external forces that are working. We are, I'm not sure on the numbers, but we have seen an increase in homelessness across all major cities. But that's for a variety of reasons. We're also seeing a rising population, so I'm not sure what we're seeing in terms of the way employment's reported and that kind of thing. So it looks like we have fairly good employment levels in Australia, but that includes people who are precarious work, 1 hour of casual work, and they're counted as employed. So there's all these kind of indicators which are sort of masking the depth of the issue that the social services are trying to pick up. I think the work of Catholic social services is constantly trying to make sure that the word social is understood. I think we thought of this as well for a charity, but I think referenced a couple of times is the work of liberation and that kind of thing, and the moving middle class, how it's sort of moved across to precarious work, and that leaves people unable to participate in civic life in a lot of ways because they don't have the security in their employment or community that feels centrally grounded and therefore can't kind of push in. So I think social services are doing an okay job, but still there's so many different challenges that the social services face, both presently and will continue to face in the future, that we need to do a bit of rethink in order to replace them.
And on that, you've highlighted obviously the need for systemic changes and just how big a challenge that is from where we're standing. As leaders in each of your organisations, how do you prioritise what needs to be done? There's a lot of work that's in highlighted. What strategies do you use to prioritise and what can be addressed at different points in time? And more importantly, how do you get people on board with you?
And I think sometimes for us as a volunteer membership organisation, it's about getting people on board first and listening to what they say. We often find this challenge in terms of prioritising what our social justice advocacy agenda should be. And there's always the same things that to cover everything, and homelessness and housing and a whole lot of things. We need to realize sometimes that if we try and do everything at one time, we're not actually effective in any of them. So sometimes it's about actually reflecting and focusing on what's our actual mission as an organisation, what's our, what are our skills, where's our real experience in, what are our people really good at, what are they telling us from what they're experiencing on the front line, and to be guided by that and realising that there might be other organisations that are actually better to take on the fight on a particular issue. What are we really good at? What are our people, our actual volunteers who are out there? What are they actually seeing and experiencing? And what are they telling us? And maybe it's actually something new. It isn't one of the usual list of things that we think we should always try and fight. So for us as a volunteer organisation, it's I think really about listening to those members and trying to focus on ones that we, as a volunteer organisation, with those people, can actually be most effective at addressing, realising that there are other organisations that might be more effective in particular areas.
Thank you, that's a really good response, and it's very challenging, particularly when you look at ourselves in Tasmania. CatholicCare Tasmania reaches across a whole spectrum of diverse services, children's services, therapy, residential care, counselling school, and of course housing. So where we put our energy and how we do that is incredibly difficult. I believe that we have to start with our people, as you mentioned, and they are our greatest asset, so looking for a strengths-based approach with our people. However, also the pragmatist in me says we must also go where the energy is in society and so the advocacy can come in. At the moment in Tasmania, I mentioned homelessness, there is a great deal of political, federal and state pressure around homelessness and also around children's education. So looking to the world outside of our own silo and say, well, where are the levers that we can use to try and get energy around the work that we want to do? And we know that we want to make a difference in the spaces where often governments and other people don't want to go into. So are there areas there that we can advocate for and put our energy into? And can we get our people on board in this space? What I've learned in social services is the greatest gift that social services has is in fact the staff and the fierce protection that our staff have of the people we serve. So using that list of energy and attaching it to a social issue that can get energy to make a difference. In saying that, there will always be priorities that we have internally, which is our internal church discernment. For example, it may be that we recognise in our community that people in prison, at the moment we're looking at children affected by parental offending, as just one example. So who are those groups of people that no one is interested in putting energy and money into? So balancing that is really tricky.
Following on from, I think, I wonder whether to change system structures is sort of trying to find where the energy is externally, but also I think this is the unique placement of Catholic social services, because we're not just staff, we've got members, we've got volunteers, who are also often parishioners, and we have sort of governance, often governance structures which links us to the external. So I think that's sort of the unique positioning in order to do policy advocacy work, because I think at the moment, if we look slightly globally, we have an incredibly challenging political climate, and the kinds of rhetoric that's coming from world leaders is incredibly challenging with anyone with a sense of what it is to be a person rather than an individual in the world, and how dignity of the person can be upheld, and that perhaps the person isn't this neoliberal actor, but actually held in a web of relationships, be they broken or otherwise. So I think we need to try and set the tone of the debate, because we're made up of more than just, we're not just an organisation, but we're part of a community, we're member base, we're quite diverse. So I think that's a challenge, trying to set the agenda a bit, show and call government to a place of rising above perhaps the politics that we're seeing nationally and internationally. But then also, the government isn't one block, so it's sort of finding the energy there, that what resonates, we have to kind of, and that takes a bit of knowing what we're about. Things that come up in this conference a bit, what's the basis? Is it Catholic social thought, which provides a really strong framework for why and the what, and then finding the energy of where that can resonate in government and government departments, and the broader sector as well.
Also, rhetoric is key. Trying to set the agenda, trying to drive. I guess find that balance between the idealism and the pragmatism that you were talking about, Belinda, but in a positive way. So I'm interested to hear what's grabbed you in some of the things you've heard in this conference. Who are some of those voices who have been able to balance that pragmatism and idealism in the Catholic social services sector? What examples have you seen of good agenda setting and best practice across the sector? Anyone can answer this.
It was fantastic yesterday listening to the example of CatholicCare in Sydney in the parish workshop, and hearing about the energy that's going into CatholicCare working alongside parishes to set agendas and to really respond at a local level and a community level to the needs of the people who we exist to serve. And for me, that's been inspiring. And I know I've got a colleague here who's at Sacred Heart Mission in St Kilda. They're very place-based responses. We've been doing this in Tasmania as well, and I think we have to get back to that piece of it. That is the church. We started as a place-based piece. When we say that word, that's parish, and that's been existing for 2,000 years. So I believe that there is renewed energy in that space. I think we trod quite carefully around the word Catholic, and I heard someone say yesterday the Catholic Church is on the nose, and we've heard this morning and throughout our session that the negative recent and long-term history about the abuses of power of the Catholic Church. Absolutely. But we must, and this is what I think the issue is, we have to stand firm in our faith and stand firm that we are an organisation that is a Christ-centred, God-inspired organisation that learns and is dynamic, and we stand proudly on shoulders of many known and unnamed people, spoken heroes and those that just our everyday people. And this is our strength, and we shouldn't be afraid to say that we're Catholic, and we do this in a Catholic way. You don't have to be Catholic to do it, but you have to understand that our core purpose, our foundational driver is love than a love of God. And I've heard that in the last 2 days, and I've heard that as a call to use that central fire inside of all of us, inside our organisations, in our churches, in our community, to drive us forward.
Thank you. Agreement all round. Josh, would you like to
I guess this is it's tricky in a way, I think, because the work of social services, yes, comes from here, but I guess across Victoria we have 7,000, workers. The majority of them are not Catholic, coming from different sectors, but they're working in that context, and the reason why. But it is a constant challenge for organisations that I both work for and spoken with and talked to, and I think many people around this room is a constant challenge of what does formation look like in this time. Our own workforce of 7,000 people are also on contracts. They're moving across across from the Catholic social sector in between, but also to the largest of organisations. There's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of casual employment. There's a lot of shift work. Our staff are enabled to work within that context, have the time to understand it. This is a big challenge, and I think we've relied a lot, perhaps, on a lot of social service organisations in the Catholic tradition come from congregations, and the work they've done at growing, they've done really well in a lot of ways. They're trying to do work, but within that growth, within this time of movement and change, and not so many people sort of engaging in religious life, and as religious congregations who I work with and deeply respect, pulling back in certain ways and having to have a different role in how organisations are working to keep staff formed, to keep that spirit and the charism across. This is a huge challenge, and something that takes investment. And with the precarious work and the way government contracts set up, we've got to do some serious thinking about how we actually run these organisations and how we invest in staff. It's a tricky time.
I do agree with you, Josh, and I think one of my learnings in my career across all the different ministries in the Catholic space is that we have to invest. We can't rely on government to invest when we shouldn't. When I said earlier about standing proud being Catholic, we need to look at ways of making revenue, and I know people are grappling with this, but it is our responsibility to fund this stuff. So to fund our purposeful formation, to help the people that work translate this for today, to look at how we be dot connectors and community builders. This doesn't just happen, and it's not going to get funded. So we need to be resourceful, we need to be innovative, we need to think about growing revenue bases ourselves, and not only through small drops in the ocean of fundraising, but actually being very, very commercial minded in some spaces to get, and ethical, but to get revenue that allows us to deliver our work and mission.
On that, Belinda, I'd like to just pick your brain around how do you strike the balance between the missional and commercial aspects of an organisation?
The old mission margin to that, there it is. We live in a market world, and the market is an evil, and business is an evil. However, we also live in a mission-driven world where there are times when we think that they're in opposition. I don't believe that they are. If you use good business acumen to make revenue a surplus, then you can use that to deliver the mission. We can't rely on volunteers to do all our work. We absolutely have to have dollars to pay staff, to put systems in place, and to invest in our resources and assets. We need that. So using market forces isn't the antithesis of mission.
I agree. I think just before you go there, Josh, just the importance of talent acquisition and offering quality employment, but also quality opportunities for formation, for ongoing formation and professional development. I think that's essential to attracting good, I think it was Francis Sullivan who said yesterday, good people to do good works. Josh, don't interrupt your line of thought, we can add something to that.
I guess markets not markets aren't evil, but the conditions which underpin markets is what we need to pay specific attention to. Which I think we all know that, and this is why social services is constantly called to be not just providing charity work and welfare and programs, but actually trying to look at what are the underpinning causes which grow the injustice that we need to often work at. And I think, and that's difficult for social services to do, because it's hard work just providing services, as anyone who's frontline worker knows. So yeah, that's something that we've got to keep in mind. That's not just social services. I think Catholic social services surrounded not just say volunteers, members, staff, governments, but we also have friends in education, and we've also got friends in health. We have there's a range of other places where we can get together to have to think about those broader questions. And it doesn't just have to be social services, which is fantastic.
I just want to change tack a little and go to Claire. I think I read an article when you first became president of the St. Vincent de Paul puppets. You talked about council, you talked about isolation and loneliness as some of the things that struck you when you were doing your initial visits, when you were part of this conference. This is something that is affecting many across society in different sectors. How do you keep, how do you keep in touch with things like that, with the visits that provide you that human face to the work that we're doing here? In your role as president, how do you keep in touch with that?
I'm still a member of a conference, so most weeks I'm going out one night a week after work and visiting people in their homes. It's certainly a challenge. It goes back to what I said before about focusing on what we're really good at. It's a challenge with an organisation like ours to get caught up in delivering new services or services where there's perhaps a government contract or something like that. It's challenging in that environment to remember that for us our core work is that representation, that time with people. In our situation, we certainly require staff to have excellent staff to support the work of our members and volunteers. But it's an ongoing challenge for us to remember that it is to support those members, and if we're having to recruit staff purely to offer a particular service, then we need to constantly ask, is that something we should be involved in? Or again, is that really the work of the Centre Care of Catholic Care? So that's a challenge for us. So for me, I can, stay in touch with that core work of the people who need our assistance, not just mutual assistance, but that person-to-person contact, because of their loneliness and isolation, and all that comes with living on the margins of society. But for us as an organisation, that is an ongoing challenge, to realise that we are a membership organisation, that our work is about volunteers going out and doing that work with people, and that our systems and our staff need to support that rather than the other way around.
I want to talk about, Pope Francis talks a lot about the prophets of hope and the prophets of Jude. I just want to get your perspective on who have been some people who have been your prophets. Where have you heard some of the prophetic voices or seen the prophetic voices in your work? And what's one thing that they're talking about how you approach your roles in leadership?
That's a big question. I can go to a few different spaces. Most probably powerful for me about her work and such an inspiration that is in being a lay person and taking on board. She's got in front of her. She was a guiding force early on. Most recently, the greatest inspiration I am getting is from local people. So when we started the work, the Social Impact Project, which targeted the bottom ranked community in the dropping off the edge report in Tasmania, Brighton or Bridgewater, very early on, Sister of Mercy took me under her wing, Sister Carmel, and she's straight down the line. And she said to me, Belinda, if you want to make this work, you have to shop at the Woolies once a week. I'm like, whatever. And she said, no, I want you to shop at the Woolies once a week and I want you to walk half an hour a week around this community. You cannot fly in here, and I live about 10 kilometres away. You can't fly in here and think that you can make a difference. You have to be part of the community. And if you're not part of the community, you need to listen really well to what they're saying. And so I did that, and did incredible advice. Because we know when we work at the schools and we were, but it was at the Woolies on Wednesday afternoon that I got to see Annette, who was struggling, and see some of her issues. I also learned that at Woolies in Bridgewater, you don't have self-serve checkout. You're one person at the cashier because you're terrified that the people in that community will steal. So to actually go to Woolies, you have to wait an incredible amount of time. Anyway, getting trapped. That's become. Thank you.
So for me, I guess to go back to what I said earlier, those prophets of hope were very everyday people going about their work as members. So for me, again, it was Ross who took me on my initial visits, and he was still going out doing that work. She was with my granddad when he was in a nursing home recently before he passed away, still doing the same thing, just going to visit, not needing to provide any material assistance, but just being there to provide that friendship, to bring the parish bulletin and those simple things. It's those everyday servant leaders in our organisation that inspire me. We've got members out there in fire-affected communities at the moment who have been working more than full-time, probably at great personal cost to them in many ways, who are just doing their thing in a fairly hostile environment. Obviously, some of the media we've had recently, but they're going out there and doing it because they're so inspired by our mission. They're so compelled to do what they can do to help and build themselves. They don't seek out accolades, they don't seek out positions or titles of responsibility. They're just doing their bit, but their little bit is so powerful. So it seems really to use a term like prophet for those type of people, but that's who inspires me and makes me hope.
I had a manager who was really excellent many years ago, and I just always remember that he unpacked the dishwasher in the staff room. He's an incredibly savvy political operator. He was very good with people, but he didn't just do those things. He just managed to unpack the dishwasher, and that to me is the prophetic act.
The voices in the wilderness and the active dishwashers. I'd like now to take a 5 to 10 minute break. I'll give you 10 because I'm going to ask you some questions to talk to the person next to you. You're not done yet, just take a break, okay? In your work, who have been some of the prophets of hope for you? And I mean perhaps the people that you work with or the people at the coalface of what you do. I think we talk a lot about, as our panelists have, the game changers, those who are sort of providing that positive disruption in our workplaces. Positive disruption being those who've been that voice of the wilderness, who've been that voice of hope and actually the truth tellers in the work that we do. So to the person next to you for the next 10 minutes, could you give that person an example of where you see this positive disruption and these prophets of hope? And I'm going to ask around, after about 8 minutes, I'll ring a bell of some sort. And just get you to give me some examples up here, because I want to talk to you really in particular about how to be game changers in this sector.